Nevertheless, for Dubos and his contemporaries, reason still prevailed over feeling, for, as he stated, quote, "Nothing is infallible in human affairs aside from reason, and it is to reason that even feeling must submit itself." In this way, then, he was not out of keeping with the previous century and Richelieu himself. Now, I would like to turn to the Cardinal Richelieu here for a moment to explain one of France's most important institutions of taste, an organization to which the Abbé Dubos himself belonged, which was the Académie Française, or the French Academy. The Académie Française was, and remains to this very day, one of the great French intellectual traditions. The Académie Française was set up to protect and promote the French language. It is composed of 40 immortels, or immortals, who are elected by its membership for life. It is housed today at the Institut de France, which I mentioned last time. This was Mazarin's Great Commission to Lavaux and Lavaux's Parisian masterpiece. As their task is to bear the French language forward, it is generally composed of authors, historians, and lawyers. It's extremely prestigious and very exclusive. Many of the best French writers you think of were not able to get in. Zola, Balzac, and Verlaine, for just a couple. The Académie Française are the guardians of the French language. The French were and are today obviously very proud of their language. In the early modern period, they considered that their climate was perfect, and that this allowed the flourishing of a precise and glorious language. The French they spoke was majestic and rich, and they considered that a humble person could not speak French, because the language did not admit equivocation. There was nothing vague or retiring in its expression. It was considered a brilliant language that chased away the shadows in which one could hide oneself or one's true feelings. As a quick aside, I just wanted to point out the difference between the French and English languages. If you were to look at a list of all the French words and all the English words printed out, you would find that the English list would be about 7 times longer than the French. The French have much fewer words than English, and this is for many reasons, especially the fact that English combines Latin and Germanic, while the French remain truer to the pure Latin. However, especially in the technological age, new things never seen before are obviously popping up all the time, and they need names. France, however, heavily restricts the ability to develop neologisms or new words, and the French therefore are usually constrained to cobble together pre-existing words into a phrase that will designate the thing with sufficient accuracy. So Wi-Fi, for example, you'd say accès sans fil, like access without wire. Weekend, they say it, but it's correct. It's more correct to say fin de la semaine, end of the week. The word for podcast they have is service audio à la demande. So they're longer phrases. They require a few words to describe the thing that in English we just develop a word for. The Académie Française sometimes admits defeat on this point, but only very rarely, and if I might add, almost with a sparkle of wicked glee, the most famous admission into the French being the word comfortable, the English word comfortable. They brought it in as confortable, which they just changed an N in for the M. They admitted there was no equivalent idea in French. And they still wouldn't say, you can't say a person is comfortable. I can't say I am comfortable. You can say this piece of furniture is comfortable. But a person would be at ease. And this kind of, you can think back to our discussion of Louis XIV always being on performance. There's no privacy there. There's no idea of comfort. It's pure performance. However, that said, I also want to make clear that the Académie Française it shouldn't be construed as a purely snobby institution looking down on other languages. Today, in fact, it claims that it fights to maintain a democratic language for all French people. And it is true in France that in corporate and high-tech settings, there is a big vogue for English terms that the non-elite might find really obscure and confusing. The Académie Française calls these people out for using these exclusionary terms. They want to keep the language pure, therefore not simply for style and status, but also for popular intelligibility as well. The Académie Française obviously has a very hard job on this front. It's kind of an uphill battle. The French usually just import these terms from the English, especially now during our coronavirus pandemic. The Académie Française has been issuing lots of guidance for these terms like working from home, working long distance, all of these English terms that have just been imported quickly into the French language, while the Académie Française is trying to ramp up its efforts to make sure this new space remains as French as possible. So here you see I just took a quick screenshot of the Académie Française website. These two entries are from the 2nd of July. One is présentiel, distanciel. They want people to stop using these words to express on-site versus distance learning. And the other one being reminder. They want this Anglicism gone. So while today people laughed when the Académie Française issued guidance regarding the gender of COVID-19, it's feminine, they decided. La COVID-19, not le COVID-19. People laughed, but in the early modern period, their job was extremely serious. They were expected to buttress the political power of the state through the regulation of the French language and its artistic expressions. It's interesting to note that not everyone in France at the time of the Académie Française's beginnings thought it would be a good idea to have a central authority to judge matters of language and literature. The Parliament, the French Parliament, and Parliament in France means judiciary and not legislature, they refused to ratify the letters patent for the Académie Française, and it actually took Richelieu over a year to get the measure through, and he eventually just had 3 judges thrown into jail, and the issue took care of itself. Once constituted, however, Richelieu's literary political machine worked like a charm. And it was a good thing, too, because this was the era of quarrels, especially quarrels over art and literature. And Richelieu could finally refer these matters to an authoritative body. The infamous Querelle du Cid, or the Quarrel of the Cid, provides an early example of the authority of the Académie and its role as the regulator of public morality.